Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
Look who we got in the studio. For all of you that know Headwaters Marine, these are the two men behind it. But we've got Shawn Ball, Ben Hill here. They are ambassadors with Edge, and we're going to talk about a number of rods that they brought in: 360 rods, plug rods, bobber rods, you know, the things that we utilize the most. And when you're talking about our upcoming Chinook fisheries in a number of places, 360s are a tremendous part of that. And the most perfect rod I've ever seen, we have one of them here as we speak. And there's some updates to that particular rod that we'll talk about at some point. But Ben Hill, Shawn, good to see you guys. In your hand, you have a rod that you helped out with developing, which I thought was interesting, the Mag Pro.
Yeah, the whole Mag Pro line.
Tell us a little bit about that and why you wanted to come up with a rod that was specific to running mag lips.
I think the industry was struggling with a good rod that was limber enough. I mean, we can go back and talk about the old fiberglass rods we used way back in the days. Loved them. But they would always bend all the way to the cork.
Oh,
and you couldn't get hooks in them good, but you could tell what your plug was doing and what your rod was doing.
And your plug could do whatever it wanted.
So went to Edge and said, hey, let's come out with a line of mag type of back trolling rods, and we started from the smallest stream in a rafter or a drift boat, all the way up to forward trolling plugs on the Columbia River. So there's a 1 power, a 3 power, and a 4 power, and I think a couple of the things that I wanted to see in it when we went and did it is they need to be durable. We're beating the crap out of them.
They really do get abused.
In the drift boats and stuff. So we did no inserts in the guides. There's a shut off about right here. So you can watch everything telegraph on the front of the rod, but when the fish does grab, you pull back on the oars, you have a shut-off to sit those hooks. And with the blend, we use a lot of the blended material like the 360 Pros have.
Sure.
And
which helps durability.
Created durability, yeah, and then extended foregrips on them so that when they're sitting in a rod holder, they're sitting properly.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I love them. I had a chance to mess with this exact rod this past year, and that was my primary plug rod for winter steelhead. And it did kind of remind me of some of those old school yellow rods, the old Fenwicks, that we all had, that did bend all the way down to the reel seat, for crying out loud. But they were they served a purpose, right? They let that plug do everything that it wanted to do, which is the most important thing. You don't want to slow that plug down, do you?
No. You want it to be able to walk away or walk around with the rod and pull and make its moves.
Sure.
And it's more of a natural presentation going down the river than just sitting there doing that.
No, with the head, we'll talk a little bit about Headwater Marine, but you guys in rafts, pontoons, drift boats, I mean, that was kind of your mindset when you designed that rod, is so that you could utilize that.
Yep,
yourself, I know that you spend 99% of your time now with Headwater Marine doing amazing fabrication. I just had a chance to take a look at a little bit of what they do. We'll show you a little bit more of that later on, but this isn't just that you're building stuff like that. You build it for a purpose to go out and utilize this kind of stuff. Now, I know it's not the only thing that you guys like to fish for. You did bring in a couple of other rods. What's the one that you brought in there? The 360 rod. You brought in the 10.6 version, and which has become extremely popular. Even though we talked about this rod, it's sometimes hard to get a hold of, okay? Because it is just that popular. There's plenty of them available right now, so this is the time to take advantage of it. There's also a new version that's recently come out. We don't have that here. I don't have one. You guys, I don't know if you have one.
I've tested them.
Yeah. You have tested them?
Yep.
Hello?
Alex.
I have this 10.6 rod, and I have the 9'2". I absolutely love them. But for yourself, when you're out chasing fish around, is this your go-to 360 rod exclusively, or do you kind of mess around with some of the other versions of the Edge rod?
Got three different ones in the boat. This is more of the back, straight out the back rod.
Oh, okay.
And then
1163s, I believe they are.
Out the side.
And then, that's the 11.6 version?
Yeah, and it's a stiffer. It's like we'd call this 6 powers, basically just to keep your gear away from everything else.
Sure,
really
and
keep
you still get up to 20 ounces in that thing and keep your spread solid, which is an advantage. That's one of the great things about these 360 Pros, and you know this is good or better than anyone. The bend is way out front, which is what you want to see. Still leaves you tons of backbone when that fish comes up and actually bites whatever it is behind that 360. It gets the hook. The whole rod isn't moving, which is an advantage all the way around, having that soft tip to it. Yeah. But I always ask this question. If there's folks out there and they want to buy 1 or 2 of these rods, would there be a length that you would recommend over some of the other ones that are out there?
Boat size is a big thing. You have an 11/6 rod in a smaller boat, a little harder to get them in.
True.
Stay with the 1065s, run them all the way around.
Okay.
It's more of a manageable rod in a smaller boat, but if you've got the room and you can spread them out, spread the gear out, and
that really is an advantage, though, being able to get those, all your gear separated so the fish have a choice between what they want to target.
And some of I had a buddy that came to the Sportsman show when we were there, and I actually sold him a Mag Pro. I think it was a 3 or 4 power. He's in a drift boat, and he's up trying to fish Drano.
Sure.
And he needed something that he could manage manage in a tight area in a small drift boat. And he ran that all season, caught a bunch of fish on it. He's like, it's the greatest rod ever. And
really?
I'm like,
a Mag Pro?
711.
With the
Mag
360? In the heavy power?
The heavier power.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I would never use a 711, but he's like, no, it was a great rod. So, and there's a lot of guys that are using the 992.
Yeah, that's my primary rod.
Yeah.
Because I'm always at the back of the boat.
Yeah, and it's one if a guy wants to, it's manageable to hold with in your hand and actually not have a, like I got a big boat and I like running 12/6s out of it.
Sure.
But that's a lot of rod to be playing around in a small boat.
And again, for folks that like myself like to fish solo a lot, having that shorter 9.2 version, you can land that fish a lot easier, get it netted. The 10.6s can be a challenge, and just forget about it if you're talking about fishing solo with the 11-foot rod, 11.6 rod. You can do it. But just high sticking a rod like that, no matter how well it's built, you're just panicking. You just don't want to see that thing fold over. So there's a number of different versions that can come into play, especially when you're talking about 360s. All right, but you did bring in a rod that is absolutely applicable to today. Sockeye opens up today. We're going to come back from a break, and we're going to show you this particular rod. Is that also, well, I don't want to give up too much info. Sockeye is now available below Bonneville and all the way up, I believe. But make sure you check your regs and don't get yourself in trouble. But what they brought in is the perfect rod setup for sockeye fisheries all up and down the Columbia. Something to pay attention to. We'll have that when we come back from this break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Outdoor GPS.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective. And by North American Metals Incorporated, first choice for all your metal roofing and siding needs.